We will be looking at the role of the National Agency of Science and Engineering Infrastructure, the one we know as NASENI, in agriculture. That's in its bid to support President Bola Tinubu's food security agenda. So many things to talk about this morning, and no better person to talk to about all of this but the Executive Vice Chairman and the Chief Executive Officer of NASENI, who is joining us now. Khalil Halilu is here. He is our guest this morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, and thank you for joining us. First of all, NASENI has been there, but not many people, understand your role in particular in Nigeria. So, first of all, a little into the mandate that established, NASENI and what it's been doing so far.
Well, from the name National Agency for Science and Engineering Infrastructure, we're an agency positioned to enhance and promote infrastructural development in Nigeria, particularly in the areas of science and tech, which brings about innovation, technology transfer, development. And when you touch on these points, particularly in this administration, we're trying to focus on three things. Number one, how to create jobs, through innovation, manufacturing, and the likes. Number two, how to reduce capital flight by keeping, most of the activities and value add locally. And number three, how to be able to export those things to be able to earn forex. As you know, since this administration came into play, it's all been about how, you can reduce pressure on the naira, by earning forex, by keeping, a lot of the value, locally. So you can say, we promote infrastructure development in Nigeria, which in turn has, a ripple effect, with regards to jobs, with regards to, economic impact, and so many other things.
You haven't been talking too much, or as much as you should to Nigerians, about what you do and how far you've gone. So we are very happy that you're here today, so Nigerians will get to know the impact you're making. Let's go into your role in agriculture specifically.
Well, to begin with, we are the key drivers behind the Irrigate Nigeria project, which is, on the agenda for Mr. President, from the campaign. We've been promoting local tools, both for farming and also for processing, which is post-harvest. Recently, we launched a coal fertilizer project, which is a technology transfer between Nigeria and Indonesia. The factory, is already doing some test run, and very soon we will launch it publicly. There is also a technology transfer between Nigeria and Czech Republic on mini tractors. We understand that some of these farmers cannot afford the big expensive tractors, so it makes their work more efficient, and it's also more affordable. Don't forget, we're one of the key pioneers with regards to the solar irrigation system, which is both renewable, and agriculture combined. And of course, one of the projects we're really proud of is our tractor recovery program. In Nigeria, we have about 50,000 tractors just lying fallow and moribund. So 50,000 tractors. Recently we just refurbished just over 1,000 in Maiduguri, and we're pushing it to 2,000 before we have an official launch. But the key point here is, we have these assets lying down, broken down, and we can put them back into use. So therefore reducing the demand for FX, to import some of this equipment. And we've seen the impact. Imagine if you put even half of this, tractors back to use, the impact is a lot.
Yeah, mechanized farming will benefit a lot from that. But I'd like you to give us a bit more information on this. You talked about the Irrigate Nigeria project.
Yeah.
It's not been launched yet, is it? Now, what is that project about? What is it meant to achieve for Nigeria?
Okay, so what we understood is most of our farmers, they farm once, in a year. And, when you're talking about mechanized farming, you have to, optimize your land to be able to have as many cycles as possible, be it 2, be it 3 cycles, depending on the crop. And for you to be able to achieve that, you have to have irrigation methods. So we take that irrigation as one of the key components that will drive agriculture in the country. So imagine if you can double or triple, the food production in the country, it will be a major game changer. So we are concentrating on the irrigation part. How can we partner with farmers that already know what they are doing, therefore reducing risk? And how can we support them with irrigation equipment and tools to allow them to farm multiple times in a year?
Many will be asking, these things, they say talk is cheap, but to see it on ground and see it working, and then for Nigerians to begin to reap, from the multiplier effect that they will get is what we're talking about. You've been talking about what you intend to do. Have you started? And how many farmers have been reached, in terms of this? And when would Nigerians, because today we are talking about food scarcity, insecurity that has stopped food from coming out. So if you put in all of this effort, we should be seeing results, shouldn't we?
We're already seeing results. We're not just talking. I just said official launch. Irrigate Nigeria will be officially launched next month, but we've already done trial. From our irrigation equipment, we've seen some outputs. Today, if you go to our, Institute Amedi Life here, we have greenhouse that have already done 3 cycles, from last year. And now we're expanding it and replicating it all over, the country. I think what you need to understand is all the things that we're doing, we push them at scale. So first you do trials, and then when you come to the launch, then you scale it on a much bigger scale. But none of the things that I spoke about today are on paper. They're actually they are on ground, and I'm very happy to invite you, to come and witness them yourself.
Okay, we will, because we will need to help you, propagate that gospel, which you're trying to bring about. So let's go to clean energy sector, which is where you're also functioning very well. Yeah. Today, Nigeria is still dependent on fossil fuel energy, and the world is going global, on clean energy sector. So tell us, your impact on that sector, renewable energy, so to speak.
Well, to begin with, we have the NASENI Solar Limited, which is a 22 megawatts factory just outside Abuja in Nasarawa State, and we've been we're always sold out, on the panels that we produce. Some we use them, for our irrigation project, and now this factory we are pushing it to 50 megawatts, production capacity, and still. It's not enough. You just have few customers, coming to, take over everything. And we always have these demands of, how can you produce more panels. So this year we're looking to push it, to 100 or a little bit more above 100 megawatts. And when you're talking about solar, it's a whole value chain. We have our solar home systems, which we've shared about 12,000 all over the country last year.
Free?
No, it's a payment plan, Okay. One thing I think this administration is doing, especially you see how we left the subsidy era, is to try to create sustainable ways, of governance. So there are some incentives, but definitely, these things are not free. So that we have a circular economy where, whatever is being paid back, you reinvest it, because a lot of the things we do are in partnership with private sector. So even if we're willing to give it for free, our partners, wouldn't be happy about that. So, which, we're very happy about the sustainable method, of doing business in the country so that we can see ripple effect. So our solar factory is one of, the activities around renewable. We are also setting up a solar park, on your way to Nasarawa Park in Kefi. There's a 40-hectare renewable park currently under construction, where our electric vehicle assembly plant, will be. We've already done prototypes. We've showcased it, test run. We've received positive feedback, and this year we're, going to scale. Also, don't forget our CNG, conversion center is actually the biggest in the country, in Utako, Abuja. Also, in terms of going to renewable energy and also to reduce pressure on the, PMS, which is petrol motor spirit. And we're also setting up a lithium battery factory in Lagos, which is a partnership between Nigeria and China, from the last outing we had with Mr. President in China. So there are quite a number of, renewable projects, and we're also exploring, like the farm implements I spoke about, how can we have some of them powered by CNG or powered by batteries, so that we become economically, environmentally friendly. And renewable projects account easily for 40% of the work we do, so we're top on that.
Talking about CNG, I'd like to stay with you a bit more on that. You talked about having the biggest plant in Nigeria located...
Conversion center.
The conversion center actually, located here in Abuja, in Utako, you said?
Yes.
Yeah. Is that the only one you have?
No, it's not the only one we have.
How many conversion centers does NASENI have across Nigeria? I'm asking this because one of the major things that the government has driven since the removal of fuel subsidy is that government is encouraging Nigerians to convert their cars and trucks to the compressed natural gas. And conversion, from my own investigation, after you have paid, you have to wait sometimes for as long as 3-4 months before your car can be converted. So I'd like to know, how many conversion centers do you have in Nigeria, and what's the turnaround time?
We have 7 and growing, but that's your 3 months, I'll call it 3 days, which I think is a good news. It's a good news because it means the public, is answering the call, to the conversion. You'll be surprised, how many people come, to convert their cars, and all sort of cars, from, the Prados, the middle class, the lower class, the upper class. Everyone is looking forward, towards this clean energy. And don't forget, Nigeria is a gas country, more than a petrol country. We have this gas in abundance, so why not use it? It only makes sense. I think it's something that has, ought to start long time ago, but this administration is pushing hard. And, it wasn't even in our plan to open as many conversion centers, but like you said, there is queue. Constantly you see, especially the commercial vehicles, they really are pushing, to convert to CNG, which is a very welcome development.
In terms of cost, really, because if they say if it is our own and if it is locally done, then it should be reasonably cheap for Nigerians to afford. You talked about the middle class, the upper class, and all that. Some people will tell you that even the middle class has gone in the country. You're either up or down today. So when it comes to this conversion, what we hear is that it takes up to $1 million or more to do this conversion. And how many Nigerians in that lower class can afford that? Are we expecting a time where conversion would be something everyone can afford?
Well, we're approaching a free market, and what that means is there's economics of scale. Once you begin to produce and convert more naturally, these prices will go down. But I have good news too, because we've partnered with a lot of financial institutions that give payment plan. You see, it's like when solar started, right? It seemed very expensive compared to NEPA and compared to diesel. But over time now, solar is, even cheaper, and people are seeing that clearly. Usually the challenge is the upfront investment. So what we've done is to partner with financial institutions that, especially commercial drivers, that can help them with this upfront investment and then give them a payment plan, to be able to repay back. So I think that issue of, cost has been solved.
Has been solved,
yes.
Is on the bridge of being solved.
Well,
okay, you talked about the solar factories that you've got, that NASENI has got, and I'm also wondering, how you're expecting Nigerians to get into, this renewable energy stuff, because today some people still believe that getting electricity from the national grid is still a bit cheaper for them than going into solar powers, and then the batteries, that are used. I see some, solar, do they call them solar power? I don't know what it's called, that they say their batteries have, gone down, and that's why they are no longer able to function. So let's look at the battery. Are you also producing the batteries, that are used for these solar powers?
Yes, like I mentioned earlier, we're setting up a battery factory in Lekki.
You've set it up already? Or
no, we're setting up. We're setting up, okay? And, with our new model in NASENI, we've been doing a lot of partnerships because government cannot do it alone, So we have partnerships with a lot of battery manufacturers. There are quite a few in Nigeria, especially in the eastern part of the country. so that they augment, the activities that we do. But of course, like you mentioned, in a market, there are products with different qualities, and that is why we are there to, work with the likes of Standard Organization of Nigeria, Consumer Protection Council, to ensure that the items that are being produced, can withstand the test of time, so that customers enjoy it with little complaint.
All right. Looking at energy is a very serious issue in Nigeria, because the cost of energy is actually something that Nigerians have been grappling with. Now, you've talked about the lithium battery plant that NASENI is putting up now. How much involvement does NASENI have in the street lighting that we've seen across, I've seen it in Abuja, for instance, and I know so many states are doing their street lighting using solar street lamps. So how involved is NASENI in that? I'm
glad you brought up the issue of solar street lamp, because we have an outfit in Ogun Free Trade Zone to manufacture solar street lights. And just before the holidays, I was pitching to the FCT minister, because there is this project, Light Up Abuja project, coming up, which we're expecting the FCT to procure about 40,000 solar street lights. And we're saying we're a government agency, so you should patronize our factory. So every day we're following up, writing letters. And also we were at the National Economic Council, as well as the Senate House of Representatives. They buy a lot of this solar lamps. So we've sent them samples, they're happy with it. And we're waiting for the budget to be concluded to see how much of our lamps and solar products they're going to buy.
So you think they should partner with NASENI in everything, at least to ensure Nigeria is lit up completely?
It should be natural.
Natural. Okay, let's go to eco-friendly transportation solutions, which NASENI also prides itself to be involved in. I'm beginning to wonder how many tricycles, for instance, in Nigeria, how many vehicles, for instance, in Nigeria, can you proudly say, electricity powered at the moment?
Well, it's a value chain, because if it's electric power, you also need to make provision, for the electricity that will power it. And you can see we're building the ecosystem, one step at a time, starting, from the generation, which is the solar panels, to the storage, which is the battery, and now we're moving into electric vehicle. Like I mentioned earlier, we've built prototypes. We'll partner with different companies in and outside the country. And, this year we'll roll out some of these products. Already we have, complete knockdown and semi-knockdown components for about 200 vehicles, just to do the first final phases. And for tricycles, we have about 1,000 of them to see how they can withstand our roads and the likes. And then once we're happy with it by mid-year, then we scale this production.
By mid-year this year?
Yes.
Because I was in China sometime last year, and I was amazed at the number of electric-powered, bicycles, motorcycles you see on the road that you hardly even hear noise. So it also had to deal with even the noise pollution that we see around in places like Lagos, for instance. So are you hopeful that we will get to that point where many Nigerians will be keyed into this?
I am certain.
You are certain.
Not hopeful, certain. I like that confidence. But let's go back to the field of agriculture, because one of my favorite maxims is one I borrowed from the World Food Program, the World Food Day of 1979, which says food comes first. In everything we do, food comes first. I'm sure after now you're probably going to leave here and have breakfast.
I've already had breakfast.
You already had breakfast. You see, food comes first. So let's go back to the farms, and I'm particularly interested in what NASENI can do for the small and medium-scale farmers. I am a farmer too. I do a little bit of farming, and I believe that when there's technology applied, I probably will be able to achieve a lot more than I'm doing currently.
Well, I think the best thing you can do to a farmer, is to have a partner that is constantly building and innovating around inputs that will enhance and multiply production. This is what they do all the time. They need better seedlings, they need better fertilizer, they need better tools, to be able to get output. And once there is an output, you also create a new problem, which is storage. And then you need better methods to store. And I would like to take you back at one of the key things we do at NASENI, which is domestication of technology. We've seen technologies in all parts of the world, in China, in Germany, and the likes. But the key thing we need to look at is you need to tailor this technology to our local conditions, if you want to succeed. And what we do around the technology transfer is domestication and commercialization of this technology so that it becomes sustainable. So therefore creating an ecosystem that will support these farmers. Yes. But our agency is somewhere that has over 2,000 engineers and scientists. And what are they doing every day? Constantly innovating.
Okay, so you will tell us more about this innovation by your engineers when we return. We need to yield this space for the social media segment. African Voice, and if you're just joining us, we'll be looking at engineering and empowering and infrastructure development in the country, particularly in the agriculture sector, and that's looking at the role of the National Agency for Science and Engineering Infrastructure, NASENI, in all of this. And we've been speaking to the Chief Executive Officer, that's the Executive Vice Chairman and CEO of that agency, Khalil Halilu, who is still here with us. Thank you so much for your patience.
Thank you.
All right. Before we went on a break, you were talking about, your support for local farmers, like Khalil said, that he's also one of them, and small and medium farmers, and how you are also, supporting them through innovations. You talked about the engineers in your organization and how far they go in going through this. Could you lead us into that as well?
Well, like I mentioned earlier, we have about over 2,000 engineers and scientists combined in our organizations, and we have different institutes. Some focused on, mechanical engineering, particularly around agriculture. For example, we have the Agricultural and Mechanical Development Institute in Lafia, which focus on how, to promote and to bring about innovation in areas of agriculture. And typically the way we work is we engage stakeholders, we receive complaints and, challenges, because, farming is a live activity, Every season you are presented with new crops, improved varieties, and also new challenges, from pests, and the likes. And of course, better methods of farming and, learnings from other parts of the world and how we can optimize and adopt them, to our environment. So constantly, every single day, that's what we do. We see how we can optimize. And the key thing is how can we increase output, and also how can we increase value add and better storage. So, we're exploring better varieties, collaborating with the likes of Ministry of Agriculture, NALDA, and so many other agencies too.
And that storage is quite key, because that's one of the major problems that farmers go through. At the end of the day, you're able to produce, and then your produce goes bad even before your very eyes. You talked about drones and all that for pesticides and outside that you also lead us into that. Let's understand exactly how it works.
Well, we realize one of the biggest losses is what we call the post-harvest losses. Today, if you go to a place like Kano and, buy a basket of tomato, you go down to Lagos, sometimes it's 10 times the price. And the simple reason is logistics and storage, because we don't have that value chain, So we've been exploring things like solar-powered freezers, where you can use natural energy and you don't really have to be connected to the grid, to store some of these vegetables. Also enhance logistics. You spoke about the CNG earlier, which now has extended to trucks. A lot of trucking business are now powered, by CNG. So how can you bring down the cost? And also processing. Processing is key. If you can bring processing equipment, be it small, medium, and large scale, closer to the farmer, it definitely, adds a point. And the key thing is, how can we create value, so that farmers don't sell their raw materials cheap, whether we're using it for export, or for local consumptions. But if you look at the entire agricultural value chain, usually it's the farmers that suffer. They spend months under the sun, digging, harrowing, plowing, only to be at the receiving end, of the entire
middlemen.
Of course, middlemen. So we're looking at how we can push tools and equipment to them in order for them to increase value of whatever they produce before dashing it out to the market.
I like the fact that you mentioned tomatoes. Let's talk about rice. Rice is a critical staple in Nigeria. I'm not sure if they eat more rice in Southeast Asia now than
Nigeria.
Nigeria, because we do consume a lot of rice in this country. But what's NASENI doing in that particular regard, talking about providing solutions to the rice value chain?
Well, for our Irrigate Nigeria project, the pilot crop, is rice. If we're being fair to the previous administration, they've done a lot, with regards to rice production. I think Nigeria became self-sufficient in rice, even though we have the challenge of a lot of these farmers exporting the rice, and then, we don't have it locally. And in foreign exchange,
it's still so expensive?
Yeah, I believe, it contributes a lot, to that. When you can just cross over to Niger and sell it, in hard currency, it also contributes. But the key thing is, while other people are earning, there were statistics that showed that, Kebbi State has one of the highest number of pilgrims, private pilgrims, going to Saudi. And it's as an effect of, the amount of money they earn, from selling this rice. But what we're trying to do is, yes, we are farming it, but let's make you farm it 2 or 3 times, in a year, so that you can flood the market. And I think that's one of the key things that this government, will do, to be able to flood the market and, drive the price of this commodity.
Okay, we'll be going in a short while, but I won't let you go before you talk to Nigerians now directly, because they are watching you this morning. And I want to believe this is the first time you're on this set, right?
No.
Okay, you've been here severally. Okay, so let's look at how much, Nigeria should expect from your vision, your mandate going forward between now and, say, in the next 2-3 years. What would be the impact on Nigeria, so that when we bring you back, we'll begin to measure, how much this has happened.
Well, I think the impact that Nigerians should be looking forward to is our efforts, to bring about technologies that will enhance, the economy. And what I mean by enhancing the economy is, you are producing one, we make it 2, 3, or 4. We're giving you more efficient methods of, whether it is power, cleaner energy, and most importantly, how to promote local innovations. So very soon, Nigerians should be expecting a big rollout from NASENI on a program that not just allow NASENI engineers to be building these things, but how can we open it up, to other Nigerians. You find a hardworking guy from, maybe Taraba that has built a solar-powered, maybe generator. How can we encourage him? We're concluding the furnishing of our innovation hub, where we want to bring all innovators, to come and promote. We understand that government cannot do it alone, and we also want to give chance, to these scientists, innovators that are external, not just within NASENI, to see how we can bring their innovations, promote it, and scale it, for the benefits of the country. So, that's what Nigerians should be expecting, from us. A lot of innovations, a lot of, domesticated technologies that will have real impact in the society.
How does one, as an individual, key into what you do? Now, I'm here. Okay, I've listened to you, and I've listened to everything that NASENI is doing. I want to be a part of it. I want to be a beneficiary, just like many Nigerians who are watching you now. How do they key in? How do they reach out to you? How do they go about it?
There are several ways. Number one, you go to our innovation hub. Number two, you write to us. But the easiest one is, through our online channels. You go to naseni.gov.ng. Under submissions, you can see where you can partner and collaborate with us. You can open accounts. You can submit various, proposals. Our proposals are completely automated and online, and it does self-scoring so that you don't say anyone is tampering, with your application. So we know exactly what we can offer to you, and based on that, you fill in a questionnaire, and you see, the results of your application, and then it gives opportunity for us to partner. And I would like to also mention that about 70% of our budget is counterpart funding, which means if someone does not come, to collaborate with us, we can spend this money, which is a key thing to show that, we are collaborative. Or all the CNG centers, the electric vehicles, we're not doing it alone. We understand government can key in with some capital, with, policies, with regulatory advice, open doors, branding. But at the end of the day, private sector has to take off all these innovations and drive them into the market for sustainability.
Yeah, but I think the other side, you've not talked about the other side. When the word benefit that Nkoli used just now, talking about how people, regular Nigerians like me and Nkoli, can key into NASENI programs. Probably, for instance, let me talk about getting homes powered by solar energy. So how do Nigerians get to benefit from that? Because we just talked about partnerships now, but benefiting from the work that has already been done. How does that happen? Okay,
so I think, you need to understand that we are enablers, right? And we start the engine, to allow private sector, to run it. For example, our CNG center is in partnership with Portland Gas and Kia. But we kick-started it, and then they took over, to run it. And then we invited commercial banks, to be able to, provide benefits to people that cannot afford this upfront cost. So Nigerians shouldn't be expecting us, to go on the retail perspective individually, one by one. Yes, we can do that for innovators, but on the market side, we enable, and then pass on the baton, to allow for free economic activities.
Circular economy you talked about earlier. Okay, but then when it comes to, you talked about counterpart funding, that's how you operate. Does this mean you don't have a budget line for operations?
No, we have a budget line, but what I'm saying is part of our budget for us to spend it, So if you see on our budget we have an activity around electric vehicle, it doesn't mean we're going to fund it 100%. So we go and look for a partner, that will probably bring 70%, and then we contribute the difference. And what that does is, rather than having one factory, if we're going to fund it fully, then we end up having 4 or 5. And it creates competition, it drives the price down, and then government also can consolidate its efforts. And if you are dealing with multiple partners, you'll be able to understand the common problems. Maybe it's a documentation from one ministry, and then you can, make an intervention. But you can't just do it all, and you also don't want to risk, with just a single partner.
Are there challenges that can prevent you from reaching your goal, and how do you think they can be resolved?
Well, of course, anything you do, there are challenges, but I think that's part of leadership, right? And it comes with the job, and we're very much aware of that, and we're up to the task to face those challenges. I mean, it's life, it's what you do. You wake up every day, people present problems to you, and that's leadership. It's not always rosy, You hear good news.
Would you like to talk about any of these particular challenges?
Well, number one is understanding, moving to this free market system. I think over time, Nigerians or Africans were used to, giving subsidies, interventions, and the likes. But I think we can all agree now that this is not sustainable. So shifting from that style, to this style, also requires a lot of interviews like this, advocacy, and a lot of people think. I know there's Ministry of Humanitarian, that just dash out things. We don't operate like that. Everything is like a startup. You have to come and present your case. You have to have a skin in the game. If you come and tell us that you have a product, you want us to fund it 100%, we're sorry, we can't do that, because we're building a sustainable method. We also want to see how much traction you have, how much effort you have. Yes, you can build a small innovation, in your room, but can you scale it? How can we provide you with platform that is scaling? So that change of mindset needs to happen. And one common example is people always ask, are you producing this 100%? And then I reply them that, do you know about globalization? Where the world is a global village and everybody is playing his role. It's like going to a football team and saying that you can play any role, whether it's a goalkeeper, defender. So you need to understand your strength, and you need to play out, those strengths. So shifting that mindset, is a challenge, but we are glad, to have seen results. Last year we closed about 44 projects, and now people are beginning to see, okay, it's actually working, and in fact it is better for, for the partners. Because you are more likely to be questioned about a project that the government fund 100% for you versus the one that government is minority. No one is going to bother when there is a partnership, you fund 70%. Even when it comes to investigations or public allegations, you funded majority of the project as a private sector. Government is just chipping in and giving you policy support, and the like. So it's more of a balance and more sustainable. People go to sleep, well at night. But if you fund, especially when you do innovations, you see something small, but it's very expensive. You have to explain to people that, okay, it's nanotechnology, it is the latest micro cell, and it's expensive, and everyone cannot understand. But this model of ensuring that private sector takes full charge, and then there are majority in terms of our investments and promotion, makes us sleep well at night.
All right, granted, sustainability is key, quite key, and the fact that you also want a change of mindset from, people believing there are freebies all over the place from government is also quite key. But if you also look at, the populace, you will understand that there are many great innovators out there who are young people, who haven't got anywhere to support themselves, but they've got this idea, they are very creative, and they've come up with a particular innovation, and all they want is that support from government. Are you foreclosing anything like grants or something to help them survive or bring whatever idea or innovation, to a global stage?
No, we're not foreclosing. Like I mentioned, we have an innovation hub, and that's the whole idea. How can you support young innovators and ensure they come up to speed? But they are also called sustainable grants. We need to walk you through a process. And we partners with the likes of AfriLabs, which is the biggest innovation hub manager in Africa, having the highest number of hubs. Recently, we sent some girls to South Africa, where they showcase some of the innovations. We've done a program developing engineering leaders through her, which we spoke about here on AIT, which is encouraging women engineers. We've done the technology, the Delta program, technology transfer between Nigeria and Czech Republic. So we encourage, young innovators, but the key thing is there should be a road to sustainability. What we are discouraging is you innovate something, we come and give you 2 million or 10 million, and we just forget about you. No, even if we're giving you that, we're also holding you accountable. To it. Otherwise, it will just be, a big party where you just dole out money, and I think it's not fair to people that work real hard. So we have our process where we put you through, to see that you have, skin in the game, as we call it. So look at it as, like the Shark Tank, where you go and pitch, and justify your innovations. And the beautiful thing about this is we're not the only ones giving the grant or the investment, but we're also inviting other agencies and also other venture capital, to come and invest in this startup. So therefore, the risk in it. The whole idea is we want to invest money today, and next year we'll be able to come back and show you. I'm sure if I come here next time, you'll be asking me, okay, so this money that you've invested, how far has it?
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
All right, it's a good place to leave it this morning. Thank you very much for talking to us. The Executive Vice Chairman and CEO of the National Agency for Science and Engineering Infrastructure, Khalil Halilu, has been our guest this morning, talking to us about the role of his agency in the quest for Nigeria to, of course, turn to sustainable energy, especially in the agricultural value chain in Nigeria. Thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
All right, do have a great day. Okay, away.